I love it. Are you thinking about Jam at all?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Polkadot is really big, of course. There's this big developer surface area, which I think developers love.
550,000 people who are actively using the app every month.
Precisely. The latest one that's coming up is the 180 Days of Polkadot. If you have smart people, getting them to build, they will build amazing things.
What makes a good hacker?
The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space Monkeys blasting off with Phil and Dom Kwok, the co-founders of the EasyA app. It's the Duolingo for blockchain. I don't know, we're gonna get into it now. Very happy to have them on the show. Guys, welcome to Space Monkeys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us, Jay.
Yeah, so I really got to enjoy speaking to a lot of the hackers here at the Consensus Hackathon. You both have been active in the Polkadot ecosystem. First met you on the Attempts at Governance show, funding these various endeavors around the world. A bit curious though, you guys are brothers, of course.
Yeah.
You guys have been doing this for how long, the EasyA project?
Founded it and launched it in about 2020. So beginning of 2020.
4 years?
Yeah.
Okay,
We're coming up to 4 years now, yeah.
what were you guys doing in school? Did you go to the same school?
Went to the same secondary school.
Okay.
And at that time, then I went to Cambridge afterwards.
Yeah.
So I was a scholar at Cambridge University, but Don
Nice.
went off to the States.
Yeah, I did my undergrad at University of Pennsylvania, studied
Gotcha.
finance at Wharton over there, so for 4 years, and then I went to go work in finance afterwards, actually. Went to go work for Blackstone, and then after Blackstone was actually recruited by Travis Kalanick to join his new startup. So that's the founder of Uber. Obviously, after he left, he started doing something new, and he founded a cloud kitchen startup. So went to join him as one of his first hires in the New York office. So yeah, really interesting little pivot there. And then obviously, decided to found EasyA with Phil in 2020.
Did you always know you were going to work together?
Well, at university, we both co-founded 2 startups. So those were both marketplace startups. Exited those. And then afterwards, Don went to TradFi. Ended up becoming an attorney in New York. So technically, I'm still an attorney. But then we came back into software right afterwards. So this was end of 2019, beginning of 2020.
Okay, and what's a pivot into software for you?
My first step into crypto or this space was actually in 2013 through Bitcoin mining.
Okay.
So that was like, way back. And then...
You too?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, way back.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so, space has really changed since then. So yeah, this is, basically, as an attorney, took a little bit of a break from that all and then came back, 2019, 2020.
Okay, attorney biz wasn't doing it for you?
Not quite. Much prefer building rather than sort of just doing the same rote stuff over and over again.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, of course. All right, so we're back in the tech space. When did you see the opportunity for education and building?
This was, really in 2019.
Okay.
We were both still working in our jobs at the time. And we were like, actually, there's a huge problem right now that we need to solve. We left our jobs end of 2019 and then launched EasyA 2020. But at the beginning, it wasn't just Web3 education. It was actually STEM education.
Oh, I see. What did that look like at the time?
Basically, sort of like the analogy that Dom gave with, it was talking about Uber just earlier. It was like Uber, but for getting help with questions that you were stuck on.
Okay.
So it was really like a Uber. It's like a knowledge economy.
Was it a database or would it connect you with somebody who knew the answer?
It would actually connect you.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, real-time connections between, someone who had questions and someone who actually wanted to get those answers.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so you've always been on the app. You've always been on this kind of access in your pocket. Yeah, encyclopedia of what you need to know.
100%.
Yeah, for us, it's always been important to be able to reach people where they spend their time the most. And I think for any company, for any, new technology, for anything really, it's important to have that presence on people's phones. Websites these days, they're all mobile optimized, obviously. And the same should be true for learning in any sector, especially in the blockchain space where everyone is, young on their phones most of the time. It doesn't really make sense to direct them to a website to actually have to go through, PDFs and long documentations that people are going to get bored of pretty quickly.
Yeah. Most people watching this are probably watching it on their phone or listening to it on their phone.
Yeah, like probably 90% of people are watching it on the phone. Yeah, incredible. Focusing on blockchain, the EasyA app today is all blockchain based.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we decide to focus there? Leave the rest behind?
We were growing super fast. We were launching right at the beginning of COVID, which was obviously an interesting time in many respects, challenging time, but also great for our industry,
of course.
for education. Right? Everything going online, people doing more stuff online, just full stop.
Yeah.
Eventually we're reaching like the limits of the scalability for that sort of matching platform, where at the same time we were chatting with more of our friends who are in blockchain and coming back to that side, and they were like, hey, you built up this incredible community of the world's smartest people. So when we founded it, this was like 1 or 2 years out from graduating, so I was still in touch with loads of people from Cambridge, Dom, of course, at UPenn, Wharton, and that's how we'd initially seeded this knowledge network. So it was all people from like Cambridge, Oxford, UPenn, Harvard.
Okay.
And they're like, hey guys, what if you actually, tried hosting a hackathon as well, just to get people, like some of these people building on our tools. And we hosted the first one.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of everything. Like it wasn't like a sudden pivot where we're like, hey, we're blockchain now. It was like, let's try this out. Let's see what our community want to do. It was during summer as well, when people are not necessarily, studying as much. And that was the beginning of it all in terms of like the current trajectory of EasyA today.
What was that first hackathon like?
It was much smaller than the one that we're in today.
Sure.
It was about 100 or so, 150 people.
Okay, and just people you find from your network.
Exactly, and we were just like, hey, we're hosting this. It's going to be interesting. You get to build on really cool new tech. We're going to have prizes.
Yeah.
But most of all, like, you're going to get to also just build cool startups. So that was the value proposition.
Okay.
People loved it.
Any startups? Any tech startups? Or was it blockchain focused?
It was blockchain focused.
For us, I think the key driver behind what we do is just really expose the smartest people to the different blockchains out there and, let them run with it. Because, hackathons are a great opportunity for people to have 36 hours, 72 in this case, just to really, grind out an idea. And, maybe they've had something in their back of their minds, but they never had the impetus to actually build it and sit down. But, at a hackathon, you got to do that, right? You have a deadline and you really can commit your mind to doing something and building it. And when we give that opportunity to super smart people, amazing things happen. And, we've seen amazing projects come out of EasyA hackathons funded by A16Z, Founders Fund, YC, different ecosystem teams too. And, they just take their ideas and run with them.
So we have a bunch of different sponsors at this hackathon here. Polkadot's one of them. Who are the other sponsors for this one?
We have Sui, we have Stellar, we have Rootstock, we have Stacks, AWS Startups, really sort of a whole range of different blockchains. For us, we wanted to make sure we had a good range of different ones.
Incredible.
So we have obviously, layers that allow you to actually build on Bitcoin, which is super popular at the moment, obviously,
sure.
given the action in the space. So, it's a really great opportunity for all the hackers here just to find something that they like, something they vibe with, and ultimately, decide to continue to build on.
Absolutely. And in the app itself, what are the major projects you see people going to mostly getting knowledge from?
So the most popular one right now is Solana.
Of course.
So obviously, I think we just saw that hit a huge, increase in builders around sort of, October, December, because we've been partnered with them for a while now. But then, around that time when Solana was just like, getting really, really hot again, loads of builders started hearing about it, like how do we start building on it? Polkadot is really big, of course, because there's this big developer surface area, which I think developers love. All the different parachains. It's not like, you build on one chain, it's like you deploy a smart contract, it's done. It's like with Polkadot, you can do pretty much anything, which is overwhelming, but also means that there's a big developer surface area. So like if you can really geek out about it.
Any up and coming project that you're like, oh, like what's with this spike?
Actually, we're doing a lot of work with the XRP ledger. So they've got the EVM sidechain, which they recently launched. And that was a really interesting one because typically people think, oh, there aren't too many developers in the XRP ledger ecosystem. But when we actually launched it, EasyA community really, really loved it because they saw, okay, there's something new. It's a really big ecosystem. And now some form of smart contract is coming on this sidechain.
So let's talk about numbers a bit here. Let's say on the user side, on people who are learning, how many regular active users do you have?
This week, we actually hit 1 million developers within our community, and that's about 550,000 monthly actives.
550,000 people who are actively using the app every month?
Precisely.
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we do as well is obviously we drop new challenges pretty much every week.
I see.
Multiple different ones. So we have all of these different chains in the app, which you'll see when you download it. It's obviously free for everyone to use. But we drop these new challenges every week, which basically keep people coming back, keep them learning. Sometimes we have different incentives to complete them too. Like, the Polkadot challenges, the top people on the leaderboard, they get DOT, for example. So it's a really nice way to actually continue continue keeping people engaged as opposed to just, maybe uploading a tutorial and then that's it, right?
Yeah.
It's been really cool to see it.
And is the business model mostly partners who want to expose your users to their information? Is that mostly how the business works?
Right now, we're really just going for growth. So we hit 1 million developers. We want to go even beyond that.
Good.
But long term, the business model, is still, something that we are working on. We see a couple of really, really cool avenues. So Dom mentioned earlier that startups coming out of EasyA hackathons now valued at over $2.5 billion, which is incredible.
Okay.
So, if we cut them their first check, that means, we're sitting on a nice amount there.
Of course.
So that's something that we really see as driving a lot, and it aligns a lot of the values in terms of, look, we're helping these startups get off the ground, writing them their first check. We're also obviously gaining from that as well in terms of value, and the ecosystem benefits too.
Yeah.
So that's really the way that we see the business model operating and growing in the future, but it's still something that we're working on and developing. Right now, everything is just going right back into growth and making sure that we have as many people as possible. Because as Dom said, our real thesis is if you have smart people, getting them to build, they will build amazing things, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, and what about the investor side here? Do you have investors watching what's happening at these hackathons, watching what people are building? Is this an area of growth? What's that relationship?
Definitely. Yeah, of course. VCs are super interested in attending hackathons because that's where they can get sort of the first look at the future unicorns. But ultimately, I think the first port of call for a lot of the projects that come out of hackathons is obviously, winning the prize money. Then using that to, fund themselves for the next, maybe month or so. And then after that, actually getting a grant from the different ecosystem teams, we've already seen with a lot of Polkadot projects, for example. And then ultimately beyond that, then going out to raise. And that's really where we and also the ecosystem teams that have funded them actually try and make those connections so that they can then continue to build and really, take their project to the next level. So I think those 3 stages is sort of how we see the successful projects going forwards. That's a really, really cool thing to see, that growth, obviously winning the hackathon's one thing, but then continuing to build, that's even more rewarding for everyone.
And how about on the education side? Because let's take an ecosystem like Polkadot. It's constantly evolving, constantly changing. Maybe that's even could be considered a problem, how quickly it changes. How do you keep up with the developments? How do you keep the education, the information fresh?
So that's where we invest a huge amount. So we have our content and engineering team constantly updating it.
How big is that team?
We have a team of 20 now.
Okay,
so it's mostly engineers, obviously operations as well.
Okay.
But what we do is we keep on updating that content. And of course, the latest one that's coming up is the 180 Days of Polkadot. And so that is our latest set of challenges and series of challenges. So we've got some really cool new developments in the Polkadot ecosystem, of course, to share about. And that's what we're going to be updating the content for and doing a big push around that. We're also going to have 2 hackathons coming up as well, which we'll be able to talk about.
Okay, well, let's talk about this 180 Days of Polkadot. So this is the duration of the challenge period around this particular topic?
Precisely.
Okay.
Yeah. So as Dom said, basically what we typically do is we'll release new challenges every week. And that's to keep learners engaged, also to get them looking forward to the next one, give them a bit of an opportunity as well to mull things over. So of course, with an ecosystem like Polkadot, it does take time to wrap your head around it. It's so expansive. And so what we're doing is we're working with lots of different parachains. So new ones coming in, for example, are unique network coming in, obviously not necessarily new to parachain, but new to the EasyA app. We also have a new ones like Polymech, which is actually new. And then, potentially down the line, obviously here we have Peter from Rogue. Later down the line, we want to include people like them. So in that way, we're constantly updating that content. And as part of 180 Days, it's bringing on board the next batch that developers haven't necessarily been exposed to. Obviously, Follow is a great example of a chain that recently has had a new focus with their AI side, AI chatbots in particular as well, and those agents. So we're updating it to take account of that actual pivot as well, and that real new focus for developers.
Yeah, it's a great launch pad in a way,
really?
the EasyA app for a lot of these new chains. And that's why a lot of chains also do come to us. For example, when Stellar launched the new smart contracts platform, Soroban, they wanted to launch it on EasyA first to give that wide exposure for a lot of developers to start learning about it. Same thing with Ripple when they launched their new XRP Ledger sidechain. They also wanted to launch it on EasyA so developers could get the first look at that, that new piece of tech. And I think, doing the same thing for Polkadot has been really effective in the past and will continue to be so as new ecosystems join the ecosystem. And then, look for a way to actually get that initial developer attention, which everyone is vying for. And it's so nice to be able to do that through an app as opposed to maybe having to run Google Ads where you don't already have that massive captive audience who are actively checking back and looking for new tech to explore.
And you said Polymac recently joined the EasyA experience?
Yeah, well, we're going to release the challenges probably within the next few weeks.
This is super, because obviously Polymac's like a great place to go once you have a project and you're ready to launch, right?
Exactly.
You know who else we have to get involved is Tansy.
Yes, Tansy are involved.
Tansy's involved too. See, this is
too.
good. Okay, nice. Okay, good to hear. Any other projects that have recently come on?
Well, new ones. We've got some stuff that we're doing together with, obviously, revamping the course on Astar, Moonbeam. We've also got stuff that obviously, like within those parachains, there are the ecosystem projects that we're highlighting. So within Moonbeam, for example, Stellar Swap is a good example as well. And just trying to highlight more of those projects as well. But yeah, we'll be releasing the full roadmap soon of all the different new parachains that we've got.
And then 2 big hackathons coming. Are these Polkadot only hackathons?
Precisely.
Where are they? What are they going to be like?
So they're going to be happening in July. We'll be announcing the precise dates soon.
Okay.
But keep an eye out for end of July, or keep those 2 weekends at the end of July
End
free.
of July, okay.
Yep,
so 2 weeks after Decoded.
Precisely.
Get ready to hack, okay.
Going to be a lot of momentum. So if you're coming to Decoded, then make sure you come obviously to the hackathons afterwards, or if you can.
Okay,
so one of them will be in London.
Nice.
So from Belgium, it won't be too far away. And then the other one will be at Harvard. So those are 2 hotspots that we're really building as centers of excellence for Polkadot. We've seen a huge amount of developer success. Some of the most valuable startups in our community have come out of those 2 communities. So that's why we're really, really driving those home. And it's part of like the broader educational strategy that we have within the Polkadot ecosystem.
That's fantastic. And how many hackers are going to be at these?
We're going to be inviting the top 250 to each of them.
To each?
Exactly.
250. And how many hours do they have?
So they have 36 hours.
Okay, and then I guess you'll have prizes with all of these projects that is already supporting you?
Precisely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be great to have those 250 hackers just in one place, all building on Polkadot.
Yeah.
I think you rarely see these days, well, obviously aside from EasyA, but you rarely see single chain hackathons.
Sure.
Oftentimes you see hackathons and they're like,
or they're very small
massive,
when you do, right?
Or they're very small when you do, but oftentimes you see massive hackathons and each chain maybe gets 2 or 3 projects and that's it.
Yeah.
But with these landmark hackathons that we host, 1 a month nowadays, we get hundreds of people building on those chains and launching up to 50 projects at any one of these hackathons. So really cool to see, and obviously the more projects you get, the bigger likelihood they're going to continue building as well.
Just for reference, how many people are here?
So in total for this hackathon, we have over 500 hackers.
This is 500?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
500 at our EasyA consensus hackathon, and obviously we have 5 different tracks. Different tracks will have different amount of projects obviously submitted to them.
Yeah.
But it's it's been really, really exciting to host this, and it's actually the first in-person hackathon at Consensus ever. So
no way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's always been been virtual. Yeah.
It's good to bring that vibe here, right? It's
exactly.
Like a little stuffy, a little suits, and then you come up here. There's a hive of activities. Pretty cool to see.
I mean, the focus up here is great.
Yeah.
And,
right.
People are building some really cool things. They kind of saw the tech downstairs, then come up to build, and it's been a great past 2-3 days.
Anything to talk about beyond July with Polkadot? What's the vision?
Well, our vision is really to bring the next wave of developer talent to the Polkadot ecosystem.
Sure.
I think there's it's one of those ecosystems that maybe hasn't got enough love from developers traditionally. I think it's been difficult maybe for developers to wrap their heads around what the developer surface area is, because it is so expansive.
Sure.
And it's not like you can just come as a developer and you're like, I'm deploying a smart contract. In the same way as you deploy a smart contract on Ethereum or Polygon or Solana.
Right. Yeah.
You can't even do that on Polkadot. You have to use a parachain, but then which parachain do you choose, right? There are all sorts of different ones.
Of course.
And if you're choosing an EVM parachain, well, why wouldn't I just use another L2? If I am building on a different type of parachain, if I'm using Ink, for example, well, I have to learn a whole new language. So overall, the vision is to break down that barrier, showcase all the opportunities that are available, and especially with, as we were talking about earlier before, there's so many new opportunities that are coming up in the Polkadot ecosystem. It's about showcasing those. And we're confident that there's going to be a Cambrian explosion in developer activity on Polkadot that we're going to help to drive.
I love it. Are you thinking about Jam at all?
Yes, we are.
Yes,
actually,
of course,
we were actually in SF at the same time that Gavin Wood was coming to do his talk at Stanford. So we grabbed ice cream with him beforehand.
Oh.
We just, ice cream and jam. chatting about that. Yeah, so what we want to do, and obviously for anybody who's listening to the pod who wants to get involved, we want to select, identify the top people who can go for the implementers prize.
Okay.
So obviously that's going to be like the creme de la creme of developers. It's going to be a tough one to tackle.
No,
but it's definitely something that's high on the roadmap. We were also chatting with Alex from Unique Network about his views, like how things are going to change. It's something that's very top of mind, and we want to gradually start educating developers on what this is going to entail, especially because it means that obviously with the smart contract service, it also changes what you can do with Polkadot. It means that you will be able to deploy it directly on Polkadot, or rather, on Jam and the smart contract service itself.
Super. You're saying you're doing a hackathon every month, right? What are you doing to spice it up? What are you doing to elevate the hackathons and maybe bring new eyes, new energy? How are you keeping things relevant and hot?
One of the things you'll see us saying on Twitter sometimes is we like hackathons, or our hackathons are like Taylor Swift concerts, and we want them to be like Taylor Swift concerts.
Nice.
So, we want to spice it up, as you say.
Sure,
we want to make it exciting. We want people who wouldn't otherwise have considered coming to a hackathon to come, just overall bright people, as Dom was saying earlier. And one of the things we're doing at Harvard is we're going to have a big gaming focus. And so Unique Network are going to be involved in that. Obviously the other ones as well, but Unique have a big focus on gaming. But other cool announcements on gaming that are obviously coming out in Polkadot, which I know you've talked about with previous guests as well.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're going to invite a very special guest. We're going to be, we were just having a meeting with Connor Daly and his team around the Indy 500. So could have a very special announcement around something we're doing together with them there.
Super stuff. I want to ask you, okay, so you have hundreds of thousands of users every month. You see hundreds come in through these hackathons. What makes a good hacker? What are the qualities of a person that lead them to success on your app and in these events?
Well, I think, from a lot of the great case studies we've seen before, people who have been funded by A16Z, Founders Fund, YC, I think the thing they all have in common is really, obviously, that, super smart, super engaged with blockchain, but ultimately they also have a desire to really launch a company themselves. I think you find a lot of smart people, but maybe they just want to, maybe they want to get a job, which is perfectly fine as well. But I think for our demographic and our audience, we really want to encourage those future founders, even if they are, university students, which in fact most successful founders actually started their companies when they were students.
I see.
If you look in the blockchain space, Ethereum was founded by Vitalik when he was very young, right?
Sure.
I think, looking beyond the smarts and seeing if they have that entrepreneurial drive is something that we're really excited about and something we actively look for in different hackers who come to our hackathons.
Definitely. It doesn't matter how young you are. If you've got that drive, you can do it. Like Vitalik, even, within the Polkadot context, obviously, Rob Habermeyer.
Sure,
right? Dropped out of university, co-founded Polkadot.
Of course. It's brilliant stuff. Guys, you're absolute pros, and it's been nice to fan out EasyA for our audience on this show here. Thanks for coming on. I know it's been probably a grueling few days running this, but it's so exciting what you're doing. And,
it's great. No, being surrounded by the builders is amazing. Gives you energy as well, inspires you. And we're building EasyA. They're building their own companies, and it's amazing to be on the same trajectory. Yeah.
Great partners, Polkadot. Keep it going, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And we really appreciate all the work you do in the ecosystem too.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I love sitting down with great people like you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks a lot.
Nice. Easy.